Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the show. Now, most people think success has a timeline, that after a certain age, you slow down. But today's guest completely destroys that idea. We are joined by David Selly, an 87-year-old author, entrepreneur, and global thinker who recently completed the Guinness World Record publishing attempt by releasing 18 books in a single year. Wow. With over 6 decades of marriage, a lifetime of entrepreneurship, and a mission centered on purpose, legacy, and impact, David proves that age is not a limitation, it is a launchpad. David, welcome to Thought Atlas. It's a pleasure to have you.
Well, welcome and thank you for the invitation. I've been looking forward to being on your show and thank you again for the invitation.
Awesome. You're welcome, David. Now, David, here on Thought Atlas, I and my listeners, we want to get to know our guest on a personal level. So, aside your accolades, your achievements, and your expertise, we want to get to know you as a person. So, can you tell us more about yourself? What are your hobbies? What's your best food? What's your best color? What's your favorite thing about life?
Well, we could be on for an hour and a half on that one. Especially when you're covering 88 years, which is very shortly here. So, um, well, let's start with the color. I'm colorblind, but I like blue,
Oh,
and
wow.
I like Merlot wine, a good one, and
Yes.
I love to travel and let's see. I love to write, of course. I've done a lot of that, and
Yes.
I love geography. When I was a kid in England, I grew up in England during the war,
Wow.
and one of my hobbies was saving stamps. I think the professional word is philatelist, a stamp collector, and I
Yes.
learned the world geography from stamp collecting. And I would study even in your stamps from Nigeria. I
Yes.
collected all the African stamps. They were very colorful, of course, and
Wow. Wow.
I I was able to learn a lot about the countries because I would study them, and it was a really a fun hobby, and I did that for years. And then at age 15, I finished high school in England. I lived in poverty, absolute poverty, no running water,
Oh, my.
no electricity, and a very unsatisfactory domestic or home style. My mother was raising three kids as a single mom during the war,
Wow.
very tough, and I had one pair of shoes, and we had one cooked meal a week. So if we
Oh,
were
my
lucky.
God.
So someone says to me, what toughened you up? Well, I think that did, and frankly, it was a blessing in disguise because it's allowed me to, uh, weather some very serious storms in life that you all experience. We all have that in our life, and you just have to see your way through it, work your way through it, make a plan, and
Yes.
develop and move forward. That's the key. I'm not sure I answered all your questions, but
You
real
you
quick, I could.
answered you answered more than honestly. Wow, wow.
Yeah.
Once again, David, it's a pleasure to have you on my podcast, and thank you so so much for letting us get to know you. Now, you mentioned you grew up in very simple conditions. How did that shape your mindset?
Well, I think poverty teaches you a lot of things that most people that have a lot don't never learn. You learn to be very resourceful. You're forced to do that. I mean, we had no
Yes,
running water, so I had to go out and pump the water from the pump down the garden path, and that wasn't purified water. It didn't come through, some high technology purification, but it was very mineral rich water. The only problem is
yes.
that it had tadpoles in it and sometimes
Wow.
the frogs.
Oh my.
So hygiene was a word I never learned at that point, but
Wow.
it's so yeah. I think tough conditions really are a real benefit, frankly, to be able
Yes.
to. It sort of case hardens you emotionally to some things. Hopefully, that doesn't become distorted thinking or off the normal curve. But
Yes.
um, I feel blessed to have gone through the difficulties that I went through as a kid because it's helped me in later life with some other major issues you face when you're changing countries. I've had three citizenships, lived in three countries, and
Wow.
three separate careers. And of course, my beautiful wife has been with me for 66 years. So um, we've had a very interesting life, full of good stuff. And I'm on fast track now. I've got another major project breaking here in the United States in next week. It's going to break. It's called People Power. It's a national movement to unite people in the consumerism and consumer causes, which will be
Yes.
fabulous. It's going to be a lot of fun. So, but
Wow.
very
First
creative.
off,
I would
okay.
suspect, I would say that the living under very tough conditions helps your creativity. And if it's allowed to run rampant, and that's what happened to me. I would like to offer a comment to your audience because I think it's really relevant. Okay, about that. What
Yes.
about your question? Um, there was a man in England called Ken Robinson. He became knighted by Queen Elizabeth for identifying that modern education essentially kills creativity in the students. And I'll give you a good example. When a child is like from 1 through age 5, they are very creative. They
Yes.
love, they will explore, they'll laugh, they giggle, they're not embarrassed usually, and they're very creative. But once they reach the school system, they then are put into this academic box, which is very restricting because you must do what they're teaching, regardless of your own natural skill sets and talents, which should end up at the end of the day. If you're doing something you like to do that you're naturally skilled at, you will be very successful. And unfortunately, the many times those creative talents are suppressed by the educational system. That's my opinion.
Yes.
I really believe that's true. And so people that are listening, you have to work through and break free from that. I call it emotional bondage because we're locked into you must get a job, you must go work for somebody else. And in the process, you lose your identity. You end up being a robot working for somebody else's dream and not your
Yes.
own. So,
Wow. Wow. First off, David, congratulations on, the project that you're launching very soon. And secondly, I agree with you for a fact about how, growing up in certain kind of, struggle, poverty can actually make you less sensitive to some kind of emotional stuff. And I've noticed people that come from very privileged backgrounds tend to take lots of things personal. You look them a certain way, they take it personal. You say something, they take it personal. But somebody that grew up from humble beginnings doesn't take things at face surface, value, kind of, in the sense that you can't necessarily emotionally hurt them, if you understand what I mean. They've been through a lot, so there's nothing you're going to say or going to do that's actually going to get to them. They are fixed on a particular goal. They want to, like you did say, of course, not that you grow up in a way that you've been through so much that it actually kind of destroys you or breaks you down emotionally, but it just builds you up, make you strong, give you the ability to be able to go hard at life and push forward until you achieve your dream, you achieve your goals. Now, you said you left England. You left England with a one-way ticket at the age of 16. What gave you that courage, honestly? When I was 16, I was still home with my parents.
well, things at home, I mean, the living conditions, it was in a thatched cottage with the rats were rampant. I would share the butter dish with the rat. It's really crazy
Oh my
stuff.
God.
That became so bad after finishing. I did finish high school, and I was not a
Wow.
good student. I was a good intellectual student. I loved geography and history, uh, but I ran away from home
Academically,
yeah, I ran away from home when I was almost 16 and
yeah.
jumped on a ship in Liverpool and ended up in Montreal, Canada. Made my way to Vancouver. I was office boy for the phone company very quickly, and by the time I'm 19, I was a district manager guy in British Columbia. And
Wow.
my people skills were terrible at that point, and I feel guilty the way I treated people. But I had the best district in the country in the company, and then when my wife was one of my long distance operators. Back in the day, you used to have an operator for every call, and
Yes.
she was one of my staff members. I had 86 people on staff, and she was one of them. And then by accident, it actually is not an accident. I believe there's divine intervention in some parts of your life, and that was certainly one of
Yes.
them. And one day I was a volunteer in the fire hall across the street from my office. I looked out and I saw this petite little lady who was wearing little pump high heels and a beautiful little white periwinkle dress. And
Wow.
I looked at that. That was it. The spark was lit. And I said, I've got to say hello. Well,
Yeah. Yeah.
66 years later, we're, we're still together and having fun and living life to the fullest.
Wow. That's honestly that's awesome. That's like every guy's dream, honestly. Wow. Now, David, when did you realize you were an entrepreneur?
Oh, well, I was age 9 when I had my first business in school.
Wow. Oh my God,
Uh,
David, I feel like David, you're making me look so bad right now. I'm
no,
actually not working hard enough.
no. No, I do believe that entrepreneurship, I mean, a lot of people talk on about being an entrepreneur, but I think the real entrepreneur has a different DNA than most people. Um, Most people talk a lot about entrepreneurship, but they won't do much. In other words, they won't pull the trigger. And I met a very famous man who I won't name, but I asked him personally, what's the difference between you and me? And he said, well, probably, here it is. He said, I come up with an idea and I pull the trigger to instantly do something about my idea. Well,
Yes.
in that process, you learn from your mistakes. And I've made lots of mistakes, lots of mistakes. But the entrepreneur road is paved with loneliness, and you've got to be. I wrote a book on that. Well, it's one of my books, by the way, Papa the Entrepreneur, and it
Yeah.
deals with. They're all on Amazon. All of my books are on Amazon, and one of them is about entrepreneurship because it's a very. There are a lot of people that have ideas and creative stuff, but most of them don't know what
Yes.
to do it. And here's the challenge. Here's the challenge for a young entrepreneur who thinks they are an entrepreneur or they've actually been working on stuff. They'll go to university, they'll be taught by a professor who's never even owned a business. So
Exactly.
yeah, there's a hypocrisy there, which is really crazy. It really is. So you have to learn your own and fight your own battles. And there's lots of good books on that. Of course, mine's one of them, of course, because it's real. It's very real stuff and how to,
Yes.
when to, not to, and what to expect from all your efforts and just be realistic. I mean, you can dream big. Wait, I've got some huge dreams, but you can dream big. You just got to prove out your thinking. If you have an entrepreneurial idea, you want to make sure first of all you document it, write it down, make a model if you need to, or get your thesis or theory, whatever it is you're working on. Make sure you document it, and then start to do your research. And today, with the aid of AI,
Yes.
incredible things can happen. I mean, it's just absolutely amazing what you can do with the AI. I wrote a book on that, by the way, AI for seniors, and
Wow.
unfortunately, most of them won't use it because they're at my age they're either dribbling, drooling, or shuffling, and unfortunately not capable. But the
Yeah.
reality is the AI is a huge asset to an entrepreneur because you can get a lot of research done and validate your ideas and develop a whole marketing plan through the AI process.
Yes. Wow. Thank you so much for that wonderful response, David. Now, David, you mentioned you've had both successes and failures. What did those experiences teach you?
Oh my goodness. Well, if the checkbook was speaking, it would be crying and sobbing and grabbing the tissues. But I think what it taught me to be more careful, but
Yes.
never give up on your ideas or your creativity. Um, I'll wake up in the morning, and if folks on the line are doing this, I think it's perfectly normal. I think it's a God-given gift to you that if you
Yeah.
wake up in the morning, for me, it's mornings. Now, maybe it's someone else who's driving or having dinner, but my ideas come to me in the morning, 2 or 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning, and I wake up and I write them down immediately.
Yes.
it's a part of a process you need to document, and there's some great books on this, by the way. Think and Grow Rich is a wonderful book by Napoleon
Yes,
Hill.
by Napoleon Hill.
Yeah, that's a fabulous book, and unfortunately, people are they've had the creativity knocked out of them because of the conformity of education. You need to, I always say,
Yes.
scratch the barnacles off your brain and go to work, you know.
Oh, I'm trying to imagine what that looks like, and oh my God, it's horrific.
Well,
Wow.
so
Wow, wow.
yeah.
David, I'm enjoying conversing with you. I honestly love it so much. So I wanted to talk about the IEA and the International Entrepreneurs Association. Now, what
Yes.
inspired you to create the IEA? What is the idea behind it?
Well, the idea, basically, here's in a nutshell. This is that program, which is still in incubation. For lots of personal reasons, I have not been able to do as much on that as I would like.
Yes,
Following my project this year, I'm going to focus on that. But here's the International Entrepreneurs Association. The goal there is to teach and train the approximate, supposedly, the number of 700 million entrepreneurs around the world how to do, what to do, when to do, what not to do, and so on, give them practical steps in having an executive director in each country and each major province or state who will be
yes,
part of the revenue sharing operation and using import export as one of the many revenue streams that will come from that. So, as an example, if a member signs up, they get access to real training that helps them become a true entrepreneur and being able
yes,
to get into worldwide contacts because now quite literally we are global, worldwide, everyone. I mean,
yes,
you're talking to me from Africa. I'm in the United States, and so the barriers that used to prevent things from developing are no longer really in place, except for some trade barriers. But
yes,
and
yes,
language, even the language has been solved with the translation issues. So it is really open season, and for those that are creative or feel this urge to expand their thinking, now is the best time ever to do that with the AI and the communications technologies and computer access and so on. There's no reason other than procrastination or laziness uh, to prevent
exactly.
you to prevent you from having great success. And procrastination is the mother of failure. Okay, and it's unfortunate because it's
Wow.
one of the worst excuses I think that's used.
Wow. David, you've just been dropping some Shaolin monk level wisdom, and I hope everyone listening is taking notes because I definitely am taking notes. Now, David, what is I think it's Genma. I hope I'm pronouncing it correctly.
Yeah.
Genma, which is
Uh-huh.
generational marketing. What is it and why does it matter today?
Well, here, let me explain the generational marketing is comes from my own personal background. I was 20 odd years in the cosmetic industry, and I'll give you an example of Genmar. Basically, what to give you a core assessment of Genmar, the
Yes,
generational marketing concept is that a company marketing products captures the various levels of their customer, emotional levels, tactical use levels, and so on. And the best example I can give you I think anyway, is this. Revlon is a global worldwide company selling cosmetics. Um,
yes,
they've been around for 60 odd years, 70 years, whatever it is, and
yes,
they market good products. Um, but about 3 years ago, they declared bankruptcy. I was with them for 10 years, so I know the inside stories. And
oh,
Revlon was much like Sears Roebuck or Montgomery Ward, some of the old companies that are no longer around. They never kept up with their customer levels, various levels. Each generation has a different set of criteria. You have Gen Xers, whatever level they're at. So by comparison, Estee
yes,
Lauder, Estee Lauder does billions worldwide. They're debt free, and they do what I call basket to casket marketing. Okay, they
yes,
their first customer when she introduced, when Estee and I actually met her, but she's gone now, but she actually introduced her product was Youth Dew, which was in my humble opinion, a barnyard smell. I didn't like it at all. It was awful, but in
Ooh.
my opinion, but that didn't count. She sold it and did well with it. She said,
Yes.
I'm going to have a very successful cosmetic treatment line, which she did. And her entry level at that point, back in the early 60s, 1960s, she introduced her products to her audience, and the age level was about 35 to 45.
Wow.
She went vertical and horizontal with her product mix. And she kept the generations. Her customer now is 9 to 90, and she does billions. She's debt free.
Wow. Wow.
They know exactly the transitional levels of the customers, and they introduce products to that customer as they gravitate through the various stages in life. And I'll give you an example. It's not necessarily the best example, but you know,
Yes.
one of my books is called Married Forever: The Four Seasons of Marriage, and that book contains something similar to what we're talking about here. A relationship is kind of like the weather. In the
Yes.
spring, it's very nice and everybody's excited and so on. Then you go through the summer, it starts to slow down a little bit, and by the fall or the winter, the fall months, things are cooling off a little bit, and then in the winter it gets cold. So relationships are the same in some ways, and business is like that in a way. You know of people that buy a product consistently because
Yes.
they like the product and they like doing business with the company. And
Yes.
that's what my new project this year, by the way, called People Power. And the website on that, by the way, is peoplepower365.com. And members can go in. There's a free membership, there's a small paid membership, and that's a consumer program to educate customers and to bring companies on board so they can experience the generational marketing concept. And they will have products when they're young, they'll have products when they're old. And there are several companies that do this already. Amazon is very good at this, by the way. And
Yeah.
they capture the audience. They've got you from basket to casket, basically. They do,
Yeah.
and they're very good at
I
it.
love that
So
concept. I mean, think about it. Amazon is literally $1 trillion company. So definitely, I think if it was possible to even catch you as a fetus or a zygote, they would actually do it. You start buying products before you even see the light of the world, and that's just crazy, man. Wow.
Yes,
And
yes.
your concept, generational marketing, I think it's absolutely fabulous and very, very impressive. And I'm glad that you've been able to share that with lots and lots of entrepreneurs. Now, David, you and I know for a fact that businesses could get to a point where it becomes so profitable, it becomes essentially a powerhouse, becomes a force in the world. Now, you speak a lot about ethical business and why business should have ethics. Why do you think this is more important now than ever?
Well, I think the current political situation addresses that very well. There's a lot of dissension in the marketplace. Um,
Yes,
Consumers don't trust the companies like they used to, as an example, and there's fear and trepidation. If you go into a grocery store now, you'll see. I mean, I don't know if the audience here in the United States would would relate to this. The
yes.
There's a product. It's called uh, well, there's several of them, but it's a cornflake basically in a package. You're
Okay,
familiar with it,
conflicts.
cornflakes,
I
right? Well, the
I
package
only
has
know
got
one. I think it's Good Morning. Good Morning is the one I'm like very familiar with. I don't know if you guys definitely you guys have it in the US,
right.
definitely.
Well, there's one called Raisin Bran. Okay, they put raisins
Okay.
in the process of manufacturing, kind of like
Ooh,
cornflakes, but that
yes,
package has gradually got thinner and thinner and thinner, and it used to be like 2.5 inches wide. It's down to an inch and a quarter, I think it is now.
ooh,
Very almost like two or three servings. Pretty soon, they're probably going to go to individual servings, because it's highly more profitable. But here's the
yes,
thing: there's a lot of deception in the marketing, and that's what my generational marketing project, by the way, is about.
yes.
Putting bringing genuine marketing to the marketplace where the customer trusts the company both in price and quantity and so on, and they
Yes.
retain and get a long-term relationship. I mean, if you look at the if you look at the Harley Davidson motorcycle as an example, as a good
Oh, wow.
company,
The classic bike.
yeah, well, Daddy had a Harley, his
Yeah.
sons had a Harley, and their sons will have a
Yeah.
Harley because they keep them in the loop. It's a psychological marketing strategy which
Yes.
keeps the business alive and well. And there are a number of others, by the way, that do that. But there's thousands of companies that simply don't have a clue. They're just looking for a quick buck. And
Yes.
in the process, of course, they lose the customers once they don't gear their product mix or their aging of their lines to the customer itself. So it's a process, and I know that works if they do it right. Estee Lauder is a very good example of that.
Yes. Wow. Wow. Thank you so much for that clarification, David. And this takes me back to a story. I think a video, or I think it's a documentary actually, a very short YouTube documentary I saw about Japan. Now, in Japan, the products in their grocery stores, whenever you want to buy a product, maybe cornflakes, a biscuit, or in this case, cookies, or probably some kind of, something you can consume, they will put an image on the packaging. Now in Japan, the image on the packaging has to match what is inside that packaging. I don't know if you understand what I mean. The image you put on the packaging has to be the same as the product itself that has been packaged. Does that make sense? Am I saying it in a way that you understand?
Well, yeah, there's a visual, relationship, of course, and most of the time, I think they try to do that. It's some products don't really allow that. It's hard to
Yeah.
put on a soap package. I mean, um, there's a company here called Neutrogena. They have a beautiful product. They've got a great market.
Yes.
They don't need their package is the product. You can look into it and see the soap. Um,
Wow.
but the other companies, of course, try different techniques and through their surveys and their marketing methods, they should be able to determine that. I'm not aware that we have, is that you quote that that's a requirement. We don't have
Yes.
that here in the United States, not
Okay.
at
It's
that
it's
level.
Okay, it's a requirement in Japan. If it doesn't match, there's every chance that your company or your enterprise could actually go bankrupt. So the Japanese government would essentially see it as you trying to deceive consumers. And I just
Uh-huh.
found it mind blowing. I was like, wow. So that's the standards they kind of hold their entrepreneurs and their companies to. But I was just citing an example of how, your idea of generational marketing has been kind of implemented in a way in Japan. But I don't
Well,
know if
absolutely. Yeah.
yeah, okay,
That
okay,
that
awesome.
makes it that makes a good fit, by the way. It really does. That's
Yes,
yeah, a good thought, frankly. That's a good one.
okay,
So,
okay, thank you. So you've mentioned and you've kind of like made us to understand that age is not a limitation. So I want to ask you, what does reinvention actually look like in your 70s and your 80s? And please, I really hope I live as long as you.
well, I'm more excited now, frankly, than I've ever been. I've cut myself loose, and I'm doing
Yeah,
things that I've always wanted to do. Um, and maybe there's a good reason for that. Maybe the good Lord knows the reason for that. But I now bring to the table for myself as well. Selfishly, I see things differently than I used to in terms of my own progress and plans and directions and so on. Um, I try to dovetail my activities now more to humanity rather than commercial. Okay.
yes,
Uh, that's, I think, a natural transition as you get older. But age doesn't have anything to do with it. I mean, I have people say to me, where does your energy come from?" Well, I'm fired up about life. I mean, I really am. I've got
yes,
so much projects going on, and I love to help people. I get inspired when I had a young man yesterday send me an email. I was so excited that he's finally decided to do something with his life. He's stuck in a corporate job and bored to
yeah,
death. And I said, you got to cut yourself loose. Just plan it out, and then down the road you can quit and have your own business. So you're quite
Exactly.
capable. And
Exactly.
yeah, no, I'm excited about life. I mean, it's you only go around once.
Yeah, yeah. Honestly, David, and it's absolutely awesome to hear this from you. I remember there was a gym I used to work out where when back in school, I was still in university. There was this elderly man that usually comes and he joins us to exercise. Sometimes he would do some things that we would find so impressive. I'm like, oh my God, I mean, look at this old man. He's doing this kind of workouts and whatnot. So one day I was just forced to ask him. I was like, sir, why do you always call me and you join us to work out? Usually your mates are at home, they are kind of like chilling or reading newspapers or maybe watching YouTube videos or doing something else. He said, well, he plans to, still be able to move around, still be able to do, there are some things he still wants to do. But at the end of the day, there was something he said that actually struck, that stayed with me. He said he's not trying to increase his lifespan. He's just trying to add more life to his years. He doesn't want to be wheelchair bound or, bedridden or anything. He wants to be able to play with his grandkids, move around. And I was like, wow, that was some Shaolin monk level wisdom. Actually, I was like, wow,
Uh-huh.
I was like, thank you, sir. Thank you for that wisdom. I'm going to keep that, and I will never forget it. And lo and behold, I've never forgotten it up until now. And that was just absolutely mind blowing. So, David, I want us to talk about this 66 years of marriage. I mean, that in of itself is a Guinness World Record, definitely. And given the way the world is right now, people are not getting married anymore. The institution of marriage has been so insulted. And I'm honestly, seeing you being married to your wife for that long gives me hope that there are still people in this world that actually still respect the institution of marriage. So what is the secret to lasting commitment? How have you been able to, keep your marriage this long?
Well, I could jokingly say that I've learned two words, which would be "yes, dear," but it's not. It's not that simple. When we entered into our relationship, we had some basic understandings that we would, and we've stuck to this. And my book, the one I mentioned earlier, "Married
Yes.
Forever," that contains the all of the core things that have kept us together. But I can give you a few of them. Um, one of them is that we don't try to change each other, forcing us to adapt to your own values or your own interests. We are
Yes.
independent. We are very supportive, even especially now because we're getting older. We need each other more than ever, frankly.
Yes.
Um, and the division in the matrimonial area is very sad. I see it happening all the time, of course, and the numbers support that the relationships fall apart. We have developed basically two techniques, which boils down to two very simple things that has helped us many, many, many times. And I'll share with them. I'll share with them with your audience very quickly. They're in the
Okay.
book, but I can give them to you here. The first one is what we call the 95-5 technique. And what that means simply is this. When you have a disagreement with your spouse, it's usually trivial stuff, and you want to make sure you're not piling up a lot of unsolved emotional, I'll call them mothballs, okay, that you throw
Yeah.
into your emotional bag and it gets heavier and heavier. Well, I call that gunny sacking. Well, you want to make sure you don't do that, storing up and getting, bad stuff. But here's the 95-5 technique. Most people will spend 95% of the time arguing and talking about the problem. Well, we reverse that. We know
Wow.
what the problem. We write the problem down. We say, okay, here's the problem. It's usually a one-liner. Okay, you're not putting the toilet seat down, or you forgot the toothpaste on the counter, or you didn't get the gas in the tank. Whatever the Mickey Mouse stuff is. Now, unless it's something really severe,
Yes.
like physical abuse, we would not tolerate that, either one of us at all. No, no physical violence. But
Yes.
most of the other stuff can be resolved. After all, you were attracted to each other in the very beginning. So if that attraction was there, which is usually physical, but there's more to it than that, obviously. So
Yes.
the 95-5 is this. you switch it around. You spend 5% of the time on the problem, you write it down, and then you each make a list of 10 ways to solve the problem. And then it takes away from the guilt. It removes, some of the personality in the arguments, and you can then each work or both together work on the 10 solutions to the very problem we're talking about. It changes the entire direction of it. And the other one is more important than this one. The other technique, it's what I call the 10-point emotional Richter scale. Now, when a person talks to another person, they're using their language, they're using their body language, they're talking to the other person who may have had a bad day, may not feel well, maybe their dog has diarrhea. You don't know what the heck's going on with the other person, but you're busy saying what you're saying, and the other person has no idea how strongly you feel about what you're talking about. So we put an emotional scale. It's called a number. Everyone can relate to a number.
Yes.
One one through 10. The Richter, the earthquake scale is a good one to relate to. We call it the earthquake scale. The 1 through 10. So 10 being the worst emotional feeling you have, very, very strong feelings about what you're saying to the other person. So if you were arguing with your wife or your friend, you'd say, look, on the emotional scale, this is a 9.2 to me emotionally. That's how
Yes.
strongly I feel about it. Now, there's no way to misunderstand the number. The person then understands how important that is to you. And exchanging communication is all about understanding what has actually been said. And if you don't understand it, well, then you've got a real problem. I mean, you need to get the communication thing straightened out. So that,
Yes.
but the emotional scale is a very effective tool to communicate with each other. My wife and I do it all the time. Um, she'll say, "Well, David, I feel on the scale it's about a 7.2 or 7.5. It's a guess, okay, but it lets me know that it's certainly above five. And if you're above five, you can win. If it's below five, you better go get some counseling."
Yeah.
Um, but it works. It really works, and it removes the guilt and the anger. It takes away the hostility that usually comes with an argument or discussion, serious
Yes.
discussion. And it just allows to open the dialogue in a non-controversial way. So anyway,
Wow.
that's the 2 points that work for us. And so as far as relationship, we respect each other. We admire each other. I still buy my wife flowers, and
Oh wow.
once every 30 years, I buy her a new dress. Okay.
Oh wow, wow. Wow, David, thank you so much for that wonderful, framework. I
Well,
love it.
thank you.
I'm going to try and implement it. I have a girlfriend and I'm going to although I try my best to make sure our relationship is on track. And now I'm going to do what David's make me look so bad. I'm going to step up my game. Definitely. Now,
Well,
David, I
good.
want to talk about your 18 book challenge. Oh my God.
Oh,
I find,
yes.
David, sometimes writing my name takes a couple hours. How did you write 18 books in a year? It's absolutely
Well,
mind blowing.
yeah, well, it's a fact. I mean, it's documented. They're all on Amazon. And here's the story on that real quick.
Yeah.
Um, when I was a kid, somebody told me, a family member told me that we had a long gone family member that was the world champion clay pigeon shot in the world. I didn't know what that
Yes.
really meant, except that it stuck. And then my grandson, years later, and I accumulated about 2.5 million words in my computer with various files and so on. My
Yes.
grandson in Hawaii, when he was 5 years old, one day I was telling him stories, and at night, I'd tell stories at night. And I
Well,
said, I was telling him a story, and he said to me, Papa, why don't you write all your stories down, and then someday we can read them? And that was the beginning of the record. That was 25 or 20 years ago. And
wow.
then I had the good fortune to meet Mark Victor Hansen, the chicken soup author, who's sold 500 million books. And
Wow.
I took a class with him and learned what he did. Copied some of that, of course, that was part of the deal. And then I decided to sort out all my files, and then the Guinness record thing came into view, and that's exactly what I did. But I planned it for about a year and a half. The accumulation of the words had taken years, many years, and I just put them
Wow.
into categories. So the first part of the first seven books are what they call the Papa series, and then
Yes.
the rest of them are personal stories of entrepreneurship, AI marketing, Genmar marketing as well. Of course, those are in there. And all of those, one of my books is Famous 50. I have a domain called Famous 50, and
Wow.
that's going to be a globally licensed publishing business that allows people to uh, get into a book with, in this case, famous 50 body parts. Okay, it could be famous 50 doctors, famous 50 chemists, or famous
Oh
50
wow.
laborers, whatever.
That's
It's
mind blowing.
yeah, it's kind of fun. It's actually fun.
Yeah.
But so I did one book. It's called Famous 50 Body Parts, and this is where I had. I've always been interested in medicine and that naturopathic stuff, and so I did that. But I learned a lot just from doing the book. It was a lot of fun, and it's got famous 50 body parts, starting with the brain.
Yeah. Wow. Wow. Honestly,
So,
David, I can tell for a fact that you are the cool granddad, 100%. You're the coolest granddad in the US, and that's amazing. Wow, wow, wow.
thank
Famous
you.
50 stuff. Okay. So now that you know, why do you believe purpose becomes even more important as we grow older?
Well, if you don't have a dream, you're basically emotionally dead. The graveyards are full of unfilled dreams, okay? I mean,
Yes.
you look at the dash between the date of birth and the date of death, and you see just one little dash there. That's a life. What did they do?
Ooh,
What could they have done? And
yes.
so I'm full of dreams. I really, and it's a personal thing for me, but I know that people are capable of developing their own goals and dreams. They've I believe for the most part they've been cluttered up with the job mentality. Go work for somebody else and fill somebody else's dreams. Well, have your own dream. You're quite capable. Just check it out, do some marketing, do some research, and you'll then know what that is. But don't fix on one. I mean, the world is full of ideas. Ideas are a dime a dozen, but
Yes.
and you never know what little gem you know you're nursing along that could become famous and make you a lot of money if that's what you want to
Yes,
do.
yes,
Yeah.
yes, actually. Wow. Thank you so much for that wisdom, David. Now, David, I have a set of rapid fire questions I want to ask you. You can either
Okay.
answer with a phrase or a sentence, and you can pick either one of the options or both of them if you feel both are the best to pick. So the first
Okay.
one is youth or wisdom.
Wisdom.
Yeah, definitely. Wisdom is eternal. Yes. Now,
Absolutely.
risk or security.
Uh, I'd do the risk. That's an
Yeah,
entrepreneur. That's an entrepreneur. If you're going to be an entrepreneur, you better be prepared to take risk.
yeah, 100%. The next one is love or success.
Well, I'd go for love.
Oh, yeah. Now, the next one is legacy or wealth.
Legacy.
Yep. The last one is what is one word that you would use to define your life?
Happiness.
Oh, wow. I love that. Honestly.
You
At
know,
the end
it
of the
take
day,
it
yes,
basically takes three things to be happy, okay?
yes,
Three things. Nothing to do with money. The first one is someone or something to love. It may be a human being, it may be a four-legged friend, but that's the first thing. You need something or
yes,
someone to love, okay? Second thing is something to do that you like, and hopefully you can make a living or make a money or maybe make a fortune at it, okay?
yes,
And the third thing is something to look forward to. If you don't have some dreams and goals, you're, in my not so humble opinion, a person is almost emotionally dead. I couldn't conceive of if someone took me out of my creativity and my dreaming, I'd be so empty. I'd be floating in 20,000 feet. I think,
yeah.
no,
Wow.
you got to have find something that will light your torch emotionally every day and put some time and effort into it, and then you can be fulfilled. I have a couple of sayings I'll leave your audience with, okay? Um,
Yes.
one of them is I aspire to inspire before I expire.
Wow.
And the second one is go, be, do. Go where you want to go, be what you want to be, and do what you want to do. And you can do all of those things. You're just a decision away to take charge of your life. And that's what you've got to do. No one else is going to run your life except you.
Yes. Wow. David, this has been an incredibly inspiring conversation about life, resilience, purpose, and what it really means to live a full life, a life of, happiness, essentially. David, oh my God, thank you so much for coming on my podcast to, enlighten I and my wisdom. Sorry, what am I saying? I and my listeners to give us your wisdom. And, there's a saying in America that I think it's something along the lines of I've been around the block. David, I haven't even seen the block, not to talk of being around the block. But you've been around the block, you've already left the block, you're moving somewhere else entirely now. And I want to thank you for taking us on an excursion around the block, showing us the stores filled with wisdom and just making us understand that there's actually so much, no matter where you're coming from in life, no matter how low the bar you started from is, you can actually, live a full life, achieve all your dreams, and still be able to inspire people. David, where can my listeners connect with you, get copies of your book, and possibly, learn either Genmar or, become a
Sure.
member of the IEA?
Well, my my all of my books are on Amazon. They're available there. Um, my personal website is my name, David Selly at davidselly.net. That's my personal website.
Yes,
All of my projects are listed on that site, and I'll be happy to help anybody if I can. And I love to help people if I can. And so just reach out or stretch out if they wish to, and I'll do my best. Just be patient because I get a lot of stuff going on, and sometimes I get really, really busy. But I'm
yeah,
okay. I'm okay with that. So I do want to wish everybody a beautiful day and a wonderful life, and just take charge of your life because you're the only one in charge. Okay.
yes, awesome. Once again, thank you so much, sir, for coming on my podcast and enlightening I and my listeners. I really appreciate, taking out the time out of your busy schedule to be here to, teach us and, inspire us and give us some wisdom. I really, really do appreciate. Please do have a wonderful day, sir, and take care of yourself.
Thank you. Have a night. Bye bye.
Bye bye.